And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lowdown podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily. This is an emergency episode with some breaking news on a very much developing story regarding the Lakers and their search for a head coach. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Lakers are in talks with Dan Hurley of UCONN, the University of Connecticut, to be their next head coach. Where does this leave JJ Redick? What's been going on with JJ Redick? Where did this come from? Why didn't anybody have this earlier? And does this mean he is definitely the guy? We're going to talk about all of that here in a second. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcast. This is going to go right up. I know that I just released this morning's episodes, had a a great conversation with Andy and Brian Kamenetsky of Locked On Lakers. We had a no cough medicine this morning. We had a great home and home episode yesterday that is up on YouTube, and it is everywhere that you get your podcasts. So I do hope that you guys check that out. One of the things that we talked about a lot actually was the process here, and how we felt that this was kind of lacking. And in a little bit, I'll be talking about this addition to the process and why this makes me feel a lot better. But first, let's play Adrian Wojnarowski, the clip of him talking about this on SportsCenter this morning after he broke the news that the Lakers and Dan Hurley were in these advanced talks to be the next coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Woj, what do you have this morning?
Randy, a massive development in the NBA, potentially college basketball. The Los Angeles Lakers are preparing a massive long-term offer for Connecticut Huskies coach Dan Hurley to become the next Lakers coach. He is the target of their search. He's been the target of the Lakers search since the beginning. The sides have had preliminary contact, I'm told, and those conversations are expected to escalate in the coming days. Dan Hurley has shown a willingness to listen to the Lakers, Rob Pelinka, their vice president and GM, and Jeannie Buss, their owner, to hear them out on what a Hurley-Lakers partnership would look like.
Again, that is Adrian Wojnarowski. That is a part of a larger clip in which he starts kind of editorializing a little bit there. But the Lakers and Dan Hurley, now, according to Woj, he's saying that Dan Hurley has been the target for their coaching search all along. That would run contrary to the stuff that he has said about this at various times too. That isn't to say that I'm questioning his reporting. That isn't to say that any of this is wrong. It's like I've been saying all along in this industry, when you're talking about these things, you have stories develop and they change and you get different information. You wake up one day and a guy that nobody was thinking about, nobody was linking to this job opening, all of a sudden he's the guy. And this is for those of you, like I've seen a lot of people saying, well, Shams is a fraud. I am a fraud. Jovan, Dan, all of us who were saying that JJ looked like he was going to be the guy. The reason we were all saying it is because that's the information that we had at that time. Now, there was certainly a spectrum, and I was certainly further to the end of the spectrum where I thought that this was inevitable, that JJ Redick is inevitable or was inevitable. And by the way, I'm still told there's a chance he could be the guy, that JJ Redick could be the guy who walks away from all of this as the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, they compared him to Pat Riley. Once you do that, you kind of have to hire the guy that you compare to Pat Riley. But I will say this is finally some competition, some legitimate competition for this position with JJ Redick in terms of the headlines that it would inspire. And that was always kind of the thing that I was looking for while the Lakers were waiting for JJ to be allowed to basically take this job. I was saying, well, shoot, use this time to go out and talk to other people or see if you can, get into further talks with other candidates who might be a little bit more inspiring than James Borrego, or it might be a little bit more inspiring than Mike Nori or David Adelman or Sam Cassell. And the best college basketball coach in the country would certainly be a lot more inspiring than those other names. And at the very, very least, this is using their time wisely, being productive during this downtime, while they, still were kind of in a holding pattern with JJ Redick. Speaking of JJ Redick, I want to play this clip again. I played a little bit of it yesterday, but this is JJ Redick responding on the Golick and Gojo show. Mike Golick and Mike Golick Jr. On their show for DraftKings. This is JJ Redick responding to Mike Golick Jr. asking him about the Lakers' position.
We can't ignore the elephant in the room here. We've been so much speculation about your future in the last couple of weeks. The Shams report comes out yesterday. So is there any truth to the reports out there, and just in general, your interest in coaching in the future that's been brought up relative to the Los Angeles Lakers?
I would say this. My focus right now is on calling the NBA Finals. I am so fortunate that I'm in this position and I get to call these finals with Doris and Mike. And I mentioned the State Farm thing that I just did on YouTube. My day-to-day right now is consumed with calling games, the 19 different podcasts I feel like I have, my obligations to all of our partners. So my focus is on the NBA Finals. I will say that. In terms of Shams, that will be addressed once the season is over. So I'll just say that. I'll just say that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mysterious.
Okay. You know what? That's a great old time radio tease.
Again, didn't seem thrilled that Shams would go public with that report. And it caught a lot of people's attention. It was like, wow, that's kind of interesting that he would have that kind of reaction to Shams doing his job. Again, there's so much to learn here, and I've done some reaching out. I did send out that tweet this morning in which I said I spoke to someone close to the Lakers while all this was going on, and they said, "What the fuck, man? Why are you calling me before 7 a.m?" That happened. I swear. That is a real tweet. That is a real story where I called somebody and they're like, "What are you talking? Who the Dan Hurley?" And that in and of itself really spoke to me and said, like, wow, this was kept insanely close to the vest by Rob Pelinka and by Jeannie Buss, and for that matter, by Dan Hurley, where those three parties and their camps around them wanted to keep this under wraps for whatever reason that they wanted to keep it under wraps. And that is one of the benefits of having such a small and insulated front office, that stuff like this stays in. If you really, really, really want something to stay in, it stays in. That's why I've said over the years, when the Lakers get into these trade seasons and the move that you hear a lot about, those tend to be the deals that the Lakers don't make. That a lot of times the moves that the Lakers wind up making are the ones that kind of come out of nowhere. Remember Russell Westbrook? That was something that Kuz thought he was going to Sacramento. KCP thought he was going. I don't know if KCP was there. Montrezl Harrell thought he was going to Sacramento. And, it just last second, while all of the reporting was indicating that the Lakers were going to be sending those guys to Sacramento in a Buddy Hield deal, you get the late reporting. I believe it was also Woj who broke that one correctly, who said that, nope, wait, actually, the Lakers are actually sending those guys to Washington in a deal for Russell Westbrook. This is to say, and I don't want to give too much away for Woj. This is, I want to follow the ethics of this industry or whatever. But the person who has a direct line to Woj or to Rob Pelinka, the person who has the steadiest communication with Rob Pelinka on these things, to where when Rob makes a decision and then has stuff that he has to do. I like that person is Woj. Like Woj has that link to Rob. Rob has done his podcast in the past. The two have a very good line of communication. They have a good friendship. You could tell that they, like communicating with each other. Every time I go there to Summer League and Rob makes his appearance courtside there, Woj always spends a whole bunch of time there with him to talk about all of that, or to talk about whatever is going on then. And it's very clear that like they have that kind of link there. And this is me saying a shocker, I know, that Woj is better informed on the things that the Lakers are doing than I am, than anybody, because when you have such an insulated front office, that's what that looks like. That's one of the benefits that you have of it is, hey, this is when we want something kept in, we are going to keep that in. And that's essentially like the sense that I'm getting right now is that it looks like this is something that Rob and Jeannie and Dan really, really wanted kept in, and they've kept it that way. So that by the time this actually comes out, there's real momentum that could get them all the way to an agreement. We don't know that this is actually going to, conclude with an agreement with Dan Hurley to be the Lakers' next head coach. We don't know that right now. I just told my editor right before I went on the air for Lakers Daily, don't throw out the JJ Redick pre-write because we don't know that this is actually done. And everybody that I've spoken to this morning doesn't know that this is actually a done deal. A lot of people think so. A lot of people think this could be a smokescreen. A lot of people think JJ Redick was a smokescreen. Like a lot of people right now are, talking, in very dramatic fashion to anybody that they can to try to get a handle and a grasp on this situation. And the reality of the situation is you can't get a grasp on something. It's like trying to hold on to water. The harder that you try to hold on to water right now, the more easily that slips through your fingers. And that's essentially what we're talking about here with the situation where part of me thinks that this is going to be Dan Hurley. Part of me thinks that this is still going to be JJ Redick. The most hilarious outcome here is that it's Borrego after all of this. But I want to talk about the process here because I've had questions about the process. I'm also, by the way, waiting to have Aaron hop on here. He wants to come on here and talk about this too. He is literally getting cleaned up. As soon as he is ready to go, I'll bring him on stage and we'll talk about this together as well. But I want to talk about the process, and I want to talk about some of the criticisms I've had to this point and why this answers some of them for that third bullet point, why this is a win-win. So I think this is a win-win in that this is a substantive, a substantial name that got added to this coaching search late and actually, adds to the amount of work that goes into this type of a search. I was thrilled to hear this because, to this point, the JJ Redick thing, again, I heard early on that the Lakers were going into this process hoping to be wowed by JJ Redick. That was something that I heard, excuse me, and other people heard about this process, was that when they spoke to JJ Redick, the Lakers were hoping to be wowed. And by the time that, they spoke, like the one thing that you knew that they were going to be was wowed by JJ Redick. And so like, I didn't love that they basically had JJ Redick as their target and were doing things that would confirm their hopes as part of this process. And you listen to the other names that were coming up. It was James Borrego. not all that inspiring. Micah Nori, David Adelman, impressive young assistants, but they would be rookies too. Sam Cassell also would be a rookie, and Dan Hurley is also going to be a rookie, and we'll see how that would look like. But the thing that I like about this morning and this development this morning is that it is finally a data point that would send the Lakers in a different direction than the one that they were hoping to get. And Aaron just walked away from the mic. Gosh darn it, Aaron. But that's what I'm happy about this morning, and why this is an addition to the process, an addition that I am thrilled about, and that Lakers fans, I think, should be thrilled about as well. I'm putting in my headpiece. I'm going to bring Aaron on here. Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's happening?
Oh, he is muted. No, he's not muted. Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's happening?
No, you're good.
What is what?
What's happening?
I don't know what you want me to say, man. I don't. Yeah. Hey. Hi. Hello.
All right. Well, to update you on the situation. All right. Full disclosure, the person that I called this morning and was like sounded pissed to be hearing from me so early in the morning was Aaron. I did call him and I said, "Hey, buddy," and you were like,
"Yeah, I don't sleep. I barely sleep. Not that anybody cares about. I think they do. I think doesn't Windhorst does like his sleep updates. The Tims always make fun of him on their show. Yeah. So my sleep update, I barely sleep. So I was like an hour in
to catch you when you were sleeping. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, I was talking about the process, and we'll get back to the process on this as well. But like, I want to talk about like this Dan Hurley thing, because all of the noise to this point, and I don't want to get you in trouble here, but all of the noise to this point, and I'm using the word noise on purpose because that was the term that the Lakers were using internally when they were asked about, JJ Redick, was like, it's all noise that's connecting us to JJ Redick. I'm still told he's very much in the picture for this gig. I'm still like, there are people that I've spoken to who think that Dan Hurley, this is a done deal, and this is only getting leaked now that it looks like it's getting close to a done deal. I'm hearing from people who are saying like, well, tap the brakes, could still be JJ. Not a single person who's told me that it could be James Borrego, but also like what's going on here? Like how like what is going on here?
I can't actually just
I know, but
break this on the air. What do you mean?
No, what's but like how does something like this stay so quiet for so long? We are now weeks into this search. He has not come up once, and according to Adrian Wojnarowski, he has not come up
with the newsbreakers once.
Yeah, but
to talk to you about your pod yesterday about the process and your problems with the process and about how all of this works and leaking. Maybe good on the Lakers for however they were able to accomplish this. I'm just like chuckling as I say this. However, the Lakers were able to accomplish this, even if Dan doesn't end up being the coach, just the fact that somebody that has been considered so prominently, I was about to say none of us, but that's not true. It never got out publicly. So yeah, like gold star for the Lakers. I mean, whether he ends up being the guy or not. I mean, there's some interesting questions. How did we get here? The Lakers handled their business about this candidate getting out well. And it isn't to mean, by the way, and I just heard what you said about JJ, that isn't to say, all of the stuff that was out there and all the people that were hearing that JJ was likely and all of that, that doesn't mean that JJ is not getting the job. He is not, as you just said, he has not been removed from the board, but I mean, this is one where I was asking people, that were saying that were frustrated that it looked like it was going to be JJ. And by the way, it still might be JJ. My response to that would be, okay, then for whom? And The reason I was asking that is we've heard today, because this was not a name that had been out there. And if you were going to denigrate the candidacy or the legitimacy of the candidate that is JJ Redick, the question was, okay, like, why? For whom? And to be fair, Dan would also be a first-time NBA head coach. Now, however much you think is translatable from college to the NBA is, up for discussion, but he would also be a first-time NBA head coach.
Yeah, we'll talk about Dan here in a second. I just think because the first thing that a lot of people are going to ask about this now that the reporting has become a part of the story, right? Like a part of like the path that gets us to whoever the Lakers are going to hire. People are invested in like the newsbreakers and who gets what right and all of that stuff. And I'm like, a lot of people are kind of sitting here saying like, how did everybody have this wrong? Or how did everybody not have this?
Yeah, no. So those are two different things. So hold on. I think this is an important distinction. How did everybody have this wrong? It doesn't mean that anyone has this wrong, right?
Yeah.
The
decision isn't made yet.
Correct. Nobody has reported that anybody is taking the job, has gotten the job, will get the job.
Yeah.
Everybody who has said these things, including you, has said it is very likely, all that I'm hearing, etc.
Yeah.
Woj hasn't said that. Woj never really mentioned JJ. So yeah, I think it's interesting. That's the part of it that's really interesting to me is that, kind of the Kendrick and Drake, back and forth beef kind of thing here with the two guys. But I mean, it's not just them on kind of opposite sides of this. What Shams was hearing and reporting, and also Jovan and also Dan, who was a little bit more reserved about JJ and how far along this was, as was Woj. But like, Chris Haynes and Mark Stein and lots of people thought that it was down the path. And it still may be. So nobody's wrong, right? It still may be. Everybody is talking to different people. I've told you for years on this and other shows that we've done together that when something gets out, always look to see who is breaking it, who has a relationship, who they have a relationship with, and who benefits from this information getting out. Because no matter who it is in an organization, no matter who it is, whoever is talking, there is some benefit to that it getting out. Now, it can be just they want whoever to like them. It can be they want favors down the road. It can be whatever the reasons can be. And different people have different reasons. But the reason this came out when it did is, it is not by accident that this came out when it did. And it also, again, doesn't mean Dan's getting an offer. It doesn't mean he's taking the job. It doesn't mean JJ is not taking the job. It doesn't mean JJ is not being offered. None of it yet. There's still a little time to play this out.
Yeah, Woj basically said that over the next few days that the Lakers are going to be prepping an offer that they are hoping would entice Dan to leave UConn. Dan has very firm ties to the East Coast. He said he doesn't want to leave that kind of area or region of the country. It's funny. One of the things that kind of popped into my head while this was all going on during one of the Lakers' previous head coach search. Now this was well before Jeannie was making the decisions or was like the final decision maker. But when Mitch Kupchak was the GM, the Lakers had actually made an offer to Coach K to be their head coach. And at that time, what's that?
2004, yeah.
Yeah, this was, and at that time, the offer that they were making was going to be this kind of groundbreaking, giant money deal compared to other ones that would get Coach K away from Duke. So the Lakers have done this in the past, where if a coach has that kind of cachet in the college basketball world, like it is, I think, almost inarguable that Hurley is the best college coach currently doing it right now. The stuff that he has done with UConn, both from a recruiting and I think more importantly, a cultural standpoint, like the way that, his expectation is when you get there, you're going to play a certain way. You're going to go with his program. He is a great X's and O's guy too, but he gets insane buy-in from his players. And like I think the Lakers really like that idea of that culture setting type of presence. But like
I would warn though, that has been problematic for college coaches.
Yeah.
In the past. Now, again, you said he does have tactical acumen, X's and O's acumen, etc. And no, getting buy-in is something that translates. But the we run the program this way kind of thing doesn't work when you can't pull dudes scholarships, right? Like when you're coaching grown-ass men that make 2 or 5 or 10 times as much as you, that can't be the thing, is my point. You gotta have a little bit more than that. So I would that is where a lot of college coaches have failed, because college coaches are the stars as opposed to the players. The same is true in college football, and they're used to being able to have players that need them in ways that NBA grown ass men do not and don't care. So many a college coach has failed because of that.
There's a clip going around of Hurley, like he's getting ready for a timeout or something like that. It's a huddle, and he yells back at the guys behind him, like, "Fill in my huddle!" And he screams at the people behind him to make sure that his huddle is filled in. And it's like, you do that with some pros, you're gonna have some problems. So there's
men.
Yeah, you're telling professionals, and now look,
it doesn't mean he can't adjust, but he would have to adjust his college style. Yes.
Yeah, and same can be said, frankly, about referees too, because you look at him on the sidelines and stuff, and
goes at people pretty hard.
Yeah, he lets you know it, and so we would see how that would.
He has had a few things with fans too. So
yeah,
that ain't gonna work.
I don't think he has ever told people to stop living and dying with every win and loss. So he would have that going for him.
He seems to live and die with.
He does. He's insanely intense, and I there are concerns about the 82 game schedule.
I would also point out he doesn't have the job yet. We're you're talking, and I get it, but you're talking like he has the job. But if you and I would have had this conversation a few hours ago, you would be talking like JJ has the job. So
if we would have had this conversations a few hours ago, we would both be like, "Hold on, what? Excuse me, what just happened?" I was literally this morning. I was, because my daughter now knows the days of the week, and she runs in this morning and she just goes, "Daddy, daddy, daddy, donuts, donuts, donuts."
Oh, is Donut Thursday? Is that a thing?
Donut Thursday, yeah.
Okay,
Donut Thursday. Right. And hoping to win some donuts by betting on the Dallas Mavericks, by the way. Although the odds there, I wish.
What is it?
Anyway,
are they plus 6.5 or something like that? 5.5, 6.5.
Well, I'm not betting this game specifically. I don't.
Oh, you're talking about for the
series. But I was like, I had Avery kind of on top of me, and Miles is trying to climb onto the bed, and I reach over to get my phone, and my phone has this thing. I got a new phone. Have you seen these? Okay. It's these circle magnet things that allows you to charge it.
That every iPhone for the last 4 or 5 years has.
Yes, no, it's it allows you to charge.
Yes, every iPhone for the last 4 or 5 years has had these.
I haven't had I haven't.
I don't know, maybe 3 years, something like that. Yeah. Yes, but yes, I've seen them before. Yes, I have.
Well,
two
so
of them.
I was trying
There's
to.
One.
Yeah.
There's the other. Yes.
Well, that's a case. It's a casing. The phone itself.
No. The phone itself has it.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
I don't think it does. Anyway, but your phone
has a magnet in it. Your phone has that circle magnet in it. Yes, it does.
I broke my charger this morning. Take the case off
and do it. Take the case off and do it. You'll discover it is not the case allows it.
Aaron. This is the most on brand Aaron thing. To filibuster away from talking about this thing that you don't want to talk about. See, look, It doesn't have it.
I know, but it still sticks.
Well, yeah, because it
Because
doesn't.
it has the magnet. The magnet's not in the case; it's in the phone.
What the hell?
The case just allows it. The case
bought this
lets
case
it
for
pass
nothing?
through. The case, it is not the case that does that; it's the phone.
Oh, all right. Well, good to know. But anyway, I was reaching to get it. I was reaching.
Yes, every iPhone for 4 years has had them.
I was reaching to get my phone off of the charger,
Uh-huh.
and it pulled the magnet with it. So I'm like fighting. I'm fighting wires. I'm fighting children. And I see on it, like, Woj says this. Like, I got this Woj notification on there. And I'm like, well, let's just see which assistant coach just got a gig with which Eastern Conference team or whatever, or which recruit St. Bonaventure just got that Woj is retweeting or whatever. It's just some nothing in the morning. And then I see it's like, Woj, breaking news. Okay, what's the breaking news? The Lakers. What the fuck? I was like, I didn't throw my daughter, but I definitely, like, excuse me, gently placed her next to me. It's like, all right, hold on 1 second. Jen's like leaving. It's my anniversary today too. Jen and I have been together 20 years today.
Oh God.
So Jen's like, all right, babe, I love you. And I'm like, all right, I love you too. See you. Oh my God. So, and I'm like, I call her. She's still on her way to work. I tell her, hey, I need the kids out of the house. I'm not going to be able to watch the kids today. And then my next call was to you. I was like, what is going on? And you're still waking up. And I would imagine
By the way, this was like 6:30 this morning for me.
I know.
California time.
I would imagine the vast majority of all, like, Lakers fans had that same interaction, that same response to how all of this played out. It's like, it's crazy early in the morning. It's a name that we haven't heard to this point. Everybody is wondering what is going on, what has gone on to this point. And, like, I don't know. I'm not expecting you to, like, confirm or deny whether or not Hurley has been the target. That's the part of this that I'm hung up on, is
why
Dan Hurley being the target, because, again, that is information that none of us have had to this point.
None of us meaning who?
Us meaning Shams, Dan, Jovan, me. Like, even Woj has mentioned JJ a time or two here and there. What Windhorst also, like, every major newsbreaker has been saying that, has not once mentioned Dan Hurley, and he's apparently been the central figure here. So that's the part that I think people are most hung up on.
Okay, whether he's the central figure or not, whether he's been the number one candidate or not, nobody even had him as a possibility. So, yay Lakers, right? I think, like, we always praise all the other teams, Miami, who seems to not leak very much. So, whether or not he takes the job, whether or not he's offered the job, whether or not he gets the job, whether or not it does end up being JJ, kudos to the Lakers for the however many people that knew this keeping their mouth shut. At least until
it
today.
had to have only been like a handful of people.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the fewer people
I've spoken to Lakers people this morning who were like,
the fewer people that know anything, right? There's less chance of it getting out. It's also not completely coincidental that it's today that this is getting out there. It is not complete. That's what I'll say. It's not completely coincidental that it's today. That you can make of that whatever you want, but it is not a coincidence that today is the day that the people that did not already know this are hearing about this today.
Yeah, I'm a lot of, like, you know, the people who I've spoken to, and I've only spoken to a couple so far this morning, because everybody is kind of trying to get a figure for this too. But the people that I've spoken to this morning who, again, like, are affiliated with the Lakers, are saying, like, or have said, yeah, like, well, here's one thing I'll say. I've had somebody telling me all along, hey, you need to pump the brakes on the JJ stuff. It's not done. You need to chill on the JJ stuff. It's not done. You need to chill on criticizing us for the process. It's not done. And to a certain extent with this person, I have said like, yeah. Because so much of the noise that I have heard and so much of the other noise that is out there on other people's reporting is or has indicated that JJ is the guy. And so like part of me subconsciously or otherwise is saying like has told this person, it's not that I don't believe you. It's just that I have all of this other data over here that indicates that this is the way that this is going.
Yeah, but you're also conditioned to some of it. I used to think was a bit. I don't think it's a bit. I just think it's how you fan, and it's how you see the world, and it's how you see things. And it is.
I'm glad you
also,
finally.
and it also is on brand for you. I think you lean into it more than you actually believe. I think you believe it, but you lean into it a little extra. You put a little extra on it. You're conditioned to pick at whatever you can perceive as a Lakers deficiency and call it like a failure. And so I started to call you yesterday. Whoever you're talking to, that is not me who you're just mentioning. No. But I started to call you yesterday after your show yesterday, after I listened to your show yesterday. Which I don't know if it was yesterday, but I listened to the show yesterday. I thought there were some logical inconsistencies in what you were saying, and I was getting ready to tell you something similar, like the process that, but it doesn't. I don't think you're doing a bit. I think that is it's how you fan, and I, as someone that doesn't get to be a fan much in the NBA anymore, I don't. Again, I say this all the time. I'm not going to tell fans how to fan, but you are conditioned for whatever reason to assume or think or say that the Lakers are doing things wrong and lying. And I started to call you yesterday and be like, and again, it doesn't mean that people are wrong. Like JJ is still a very well thought of candidate for this job. And JJ may still end up with the job, but it has been, how about this? It's not a done deal. At no point has it been a done deal. And lots of people, I'm not picking on you, lots of people, and that's what you're getting at, have thought that or said that this was a done deal.
Yeah, I like, again, the part of this. So when I've tried to do this reporting, and this is me talking to the audience right now, I've wanted to do my reporting in a way that is different from how everybody else does it. I'm trying to be very, very transparent with this as best I can without getting people into trouble. And I try to take other people's reporting into account as part of my reporting. That's one of the things that, I've talked to other journalists in doing this, and they say, no, don't do that. Your reporting is your reporting. You have to operate as if nobody else is covering this team, and make it so that like the people who are following you only get your story, and your story is the only one that matters.
And you guys are also talking to a bunch of different people.
But like, and this isn't to say that I use, like, to be absolutely clear, I don't use other reporters as sources. That is very unethical.
Yes.
But what I do is I factor in their reporting, and I allow that to advance the story, and I ask people about those reports, and I handle it that way. And that's why when this person was telling me you need to pump the brakes on JJ, part of the reason I was telling that person, like, I can't. There's so much information out there that so many other people who were better at this and more established in this than I am are saying all of this too. And I'm hearing that same stuff. Like, it is just in human nature to like not want to stick your neck out there. And honestly, props to Dan. Like, I really think that Wojcicki did a great job, both in his reporting and then coming on the show when he did, saying like, look, the Lakers internally are saying that all that Redick stuff is just noise. That took some testicular fortitude to be like, yeah, I know you're hearing all of this other stuff, but this is what I'm hearing internally from the Lakers. So like, it's something that like I am going to improve on, and I'm not going to ignore stuff, even if like, because I think you're right, Aaron. I do think that there's some confirmation bias here. I didn't love the process that was going into JJ Redick. I don't necessarily trust the Lakers to get the process stuff right because they haven't done it in the past. And I allowed that to cloud whether or not I was taking this person's input and intel into account. And that's something that I need to improve on here moving forward. Like, I want to be clear. I'm not going to bristle at people who were calling me a fraud today because I didn't have Dan Hurley on my list. That's fine. If you want to say I had
Nobody
partial information on this front, yes, I did. I didn't have nobody I had spoken to had mentioned Dan Hurley. That is completely brand new information to me. What I will bristle at, what I will push back on, is people holding it against journalists when stories develop and you have stories evolve. And that's basically what's going on here. And by the way, and this is a lot like one of the things that I want to talk to you about the process here.
Okay.
Is what I've been looking for. And this is what I said yesterday on the show, was what I've been looking for is a name who was more impressive than JJ Redick to pop up. That would be a data point that would push the Lakers in a different direction other than JJ. And Dan Hurley is very much that. Like, Dan Hurley is very, like, he's the best college coach out there. He's a back-to-back national champion. As soon as he walks in to a room where you're talking about basketball, he's going to have literally one of the loudest voices, but he's also going to be like one of the more respected people. Like, this would be a very, very impressive hire. And this is a very, very impressive name to add to your candidate list, serious candidate list also. And that, like, this is all I've been asking for. So, like, when I say this is a developing story, this is an addition to the story, that's how I feel about it. Like, this is exactly the kind of process that I'd been hoping to hear more about with somebody like this specifically.
Yeah. So I will tell you this, just like I tell fans this all the time. Just because you don't hear it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. So all of it, like Woj, Shams, Chris, Stein.
Oh yeah, Haynes is another person who've been saying
everyone,
JJ.
Everyone, fans, you all have, unless you're one of the few people that is actually directly involved in this, you all have incomplete information.
Yeah.
And these things can evolve, these things can change. But I guess my frustration is not with you specifically, just in general, with this sort of thing in general. And people make definitive statements on things that they have partial information on. And this happens with trades all the time. Like, why didn't Team X go get so-and-so? How do you know that they didn't try? How do you know that they didn't know unless just because something isn't reported doesn't mean it didn't happen. And sometimes stuff that is reported didn't happen. Sometimes things happen and we don't know that they were happening. Like, unless you are intimately involved in these things, you have incomplete information, and people make definitive statements and judgments on incomplete information. And by the way, everybody makes mistakes and everybody gets things wrong. Newsbreakers can get things wrong. You will have, not you specifically, but you newsbreakers will have people straight up lie to you. Like, we'll have sources straight up lie to you for a reason, but they will straight up lie to you. So people get things wrong all the time, and it's okay. And again, nobody is wrong yet, and nobody's going to be wrong at all, because whoever you were talking to, whoever Chris was talking to, whoever Shams was talking to, whoever Windy was talking to, etc., all thought that JJ was likely. And he still may be the coach.
Yeah.
But it could be that, actually, I'm not going to say that. These things evolve. How about that? I'll say that these things evolve. And what is true yesterday can be different today. And it doesn't mean it wasn't true yesterday.
This is me thinking out loud right now. This is just speculation, but let's just say the Lakers are kind of like, let's say the Lakers still want to hire JJ Redick. Let's just say this is a hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
And they've grown, because I I've grown pretty annoyed with the whole like the finals must be respected. You can't hire somebody who's about to call finals games because that would put into dispute the seriousness of the event that is the NBA finals. And it's just like Mark Jackson called the finals when he was hired by the Warriors. Let's all calm down a little bit. Like part of what I'm kind of wondering aloud about right now is like, if you're the Lakers and you're sick of waiting, don't you leak that you're super duper into this other very impressive candidate? Like, couldn't that like or like conversely, if you're in the Lakers organization, you really want to hire Dan Hurley, but you're curious, what the response would be to go through this entire process and have people think that Redick is going to be the guy. This could also be like a canary in the coal mine test balloon type of a deal.
Sure.
Where you see how this goes too. And
Sure,
the response to this has been a lot more positive. The response to Dan Hurley has been a lot more positive than it's been to JJ Redick to this point. Like,
sure.
Like you're saying, Aaron,
Possible.
and it's always great advice is like when stuff leaks, there's a reason it's leaking. That like there are a couple reasons right now that I like just kind of came to mind as we've been talking. I want to talk about Dan Hurley and the notion of like college coaches becoming NBA coaches, because like famously, the guy who coached at Louisville for Pitino, right?
Pitino, yeah, he's at St.
He
John's
was
now.
terrible in the NBA. Awful. Ran Chauncey Billups out of Boston. Chauncey Billups becomes a Hall of Famer. Pitino barely lasts there at all. Coach K has never even wanted to try it. I'm trying to think of like who's the most recent college coach who's actually like made it work. Like I can't think of very many recent examples of.
Hold on, I gotta take this one. Hold on, keep going. I'll be back.
Yeah,
I gotta take this one.
I'm trying to think of like most recent college coach who is well established, who becomes a head coach in the NBA and handles that culture really well. There aren't very many great examples of it. Okay, yeah, thank you. So Billy and Brad is Billy Donovan and Brad Stevens. Thank you guys a ton. Like those guys are good. Billy Donovan hasn't had a ton of like NBA championship type of success. Brad Stevens has been successful at both as a coach and as an executive. So I think he's probably the example that you hope for. Both of those guys though, like, they aren't as fiery as Hurley is. Brad Stevens is like actually famously stoic on the sideline and was a great communicator and kind of came down to his players' level to talk to them. Billy Donovan kind of splits the difference there. He can be fiery, but he doesn't show up his players. Hurley does occasionally. Like that clip of him telling everybody to close up his huddle and to all of that, like that's where Hurley, might run into some issues. But that said, Hurley is an effing genius with X's and O's. Like Hurley, Darius Marchand, somebody lip read Aaron Larsoul, who just turned off his camera. But yeah, I want to, once Aaron is off of his phone call, I want to ask him about that culture aspect of it, that communication ability and all of that stuff. I'm going to go ahead and remove Aaron and let him come back whenever he's ready. but yeah, I want to know what you guys think. Like, are you guys more interested in Dan Hurley than you would have been in JJ Redick? Did you feel yourself over the process of this kind of talking yourself into JJ Redick? I felt that way. I could feel it internally where it was like, I'm in on JJ Redick, but am I in on him because I thought that Redick was going to be the guy? Like the nice thing about this is that I can scrutinize the Redick situation a little bit more now that there is a more viable other candidate out there. I don't think Demondary, I don't think JJ will be an assistant. That would really kind of surprise. Oops, shoot, I didn't mean to. Oh, I didn't. But yeah, I don't think Redick would be an assistant. I think Hurley. Now, one thing is for sure, if the Lakers do hire Hurley, I think they would give him more autonomy across his coaching staff than like JJ would have gotten, because Hurley is going to have his people. I could see the Lakers saying like, hey, we'd really like, Phil Handy to be back. We'd really like Jared Dudley to be here. What do you think about having a former head coach on your staff to talk you through all this? The differences there in how the Lakers are going to work with him. And one thing that Woj said in his spiel this morning was that the Lakers and Hurley would be working together for their vision of the future as well, and the vision of their organization. It kind of makes me wonder if Hurley would have like more say over the roster than even Darvin did. And, the way that it was kind of detailed to me, the process that went into personnel was you had all of the scouts compile all this information. They would throw together basically a menu of options, an array of options that the Lakers could potentially go with. And then Rob and Darvin would kind of close the door and figure the actual minutia of the roster out together. And that's how they would kind of build out what the Lakers would look like in the following year. I kind of wonder if Dan would have even more say and more input into that process than even Darvin had. That would be certainly interesting and something to keep in mind there as well. Laker fan writes, there's some neat irony that Dan was on JJ's podcast talking about his offensive play creativity. It's really intriguing that watched the NFL and adapted that to basketball, Kyle Shanahan vibes. Rick Carlisle basically did a version of that with that one set that he ran to get an open three-pointer, where he basically had everybody run from the side that they were playing defense on, and almost turned it into almost like a transition opportunity. And that felt like full verts almost. Rye Guy writes, someone check on Shams and Jovan. Oof, LOL. Again, look, I'm not here to like defend Shams. I will defend Jovan. I know how much work goes into the stuff that Jovan reports. I don't know Shams nearly as well, but with both of those guys, they can only relay the information that they have to you when they have it. And to this point, this is all that any of us have had. That like, again, nobody had mentioned Hurley, not even Woj. And Woj didn't even say that there was like a shadow candidate that nobody is taking very seriously here. It was just, I don't know. Like it just Dan Hurley came out of nowhere. And at least to those of us who have been reporting on this situation. So yeah, I don't know. It's fascinating to see how this is all going to play out. And I'm really curious what the fallout of it is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and I think Aaron is like deep in a conversation right now. So I'm going to go ahead and let him go and continue digging. And I'm going to go ahead and plan on being back here either later this afternoon when I have a little bit more information. I also have to write for Lakers Daily on what this is what is going on here too. So I have to do some reporting on that. And then my plan is to be live here after the game tonight. I owe you guys an episode anyway, because we didn't, because I didn't record earlier this week when I was sick. So after the game tonight, we'll be right back here live in the lounge. Maybe I'll ask Raj if he wants to stop by too and ask him about Dan Hurley. And we'll just keep an eye on this very clearly evolving situation. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you. Shoot, could be in a few hours. Who knows? Have a good one, everybody.